Well, my name is Asif Rahmani. I'm sure some of you have already seen my webinars before, so welcome back. Those of you who are new, thank you for coming. Hope you enjoyed this presentation. This is about getting started with SharePoint 2010's theme sites. So theme sites are the site templates that are used the most within SharePoint. That's the recommended ones also to start with for making collaboration sites in SharePoint. So I'm going to be digging into that a little bit. And actually one thing that I forgot to include in the title is, at the end it should say dash best practices, because that's what I want to focus on. There are many ways of making SharePoint team sites, many ways of making those lists and libraries inside and working with them. But I want to point out specifically the right way of doing things, because there are many, many wrong ways of doing it. So I think this session is needed for people to understand exactly what is the recommended options. Okay. Once again, my name is Asif Rahmani. My Twitter ID is right there, Asif Rahmani, and I'm a trainer, solution architect. Email address is asif@sharepointelearning.com. I'll spend a minute to just give you my background, and we'll move forward. I'm a SharePoint Server MVP and a Microsoft Certified Trainer. I am a principal contributor at SharePoint-videos.com, where we make no-code videos on SharePoint, SharePoint Designer, and InfoPath. No code does not mean not great functionality. I think it's extremely powerful functionality, but without doing any coding whatsoever. And also now we're offering remote consulting. So if you have any remote consulting needs, let us know. There's a tab on the site called Consulting. Click on that, read the information, reach out to me if you like, if you want more information about it. As far as videos goes, we have 188 videos out there on the site right now. 5 went up just today. So I hope you find something that's useful to you on the site. I'm a co-author of the book SharePoint Designer 2007, and now we're writing SharePoint Designer 2010. Should be coming out in a few months, actually. So look out for that. And I speak at many conferences: TechEd, SharePoint Conference, SharePoint Connections, Best Practices Conference. If any of you are attending the Best Practices Conference that's coming up, or what is it now? SharePoint Connections, of course, in fall, or there's also one happening in The Hague, so out in Europe. I'll be at all 3 of those conferences, so hope to see some of you there. So that's it about me. If you have any questions, let me know through email about me or what we do. Okay, so now the GoToWebinar environment that we're using right now to reach out to you, it has a questions and answer panel. I would suggest use it, because specifically in this webinar I want to keep about 20 minutes at the end just for questions and answers. Usually there's lots of questions and answers, and I try, but I'm not able to get to all of them, but I'm going to try my best to try to get to all of them this time. I'll try my best at least. Let's see what happens. So if you could put your questions there as I talk here, and at the end I'll get to them. All right? All right. My expectations of who you are, well, absolute beginners are welcome. Absolute beginners for SharePoint completely. This session is on SharePoint 2010, but a lot of concepts that I'll be covering are going to be, it doesn't matter which version you're using. These are best practices that you should be doing anyway, that you should be using anyway. So current SharePoint users, I hope still you get some stuff out of it. If you're using SharePoint 2007, SharePoint 2010, doesn't matter. You should be able to get some good knowledge out of it, I hope. Please be ready to hear some concepts that you already know about probably. I hope that you're already using some of these concepts. So please bear with me there. What I like to do in the presentation is work on the demo environment most of the time, and that's what I'm going to try to do today as well. Just work in the lab environment, in the SharePoint environment, and not as many presentation, PowerPoints, basically. Don't believe in PowerPoints anymore, actually. All of our videos that we make now have 0 PowerPoints. It's just demo, it's just explanation, no PowerPoint slides whatsoever. As I mentioned before, put your questions in the queue and we'll discuss them at the end. All right? So let's begin. I'm going to start from the top. So this is, of course, the SharePoint hierarchy. You have to start with a web application. A web application, the one that I'm highlighting right now, is the container this container gets created once you have your SharePoint configured properly. So web application is the first thing that you make. SharePoint guides you when you first install it, how to make that. Great, everything is good. And this actually gets created in IIS. Okay, so this happens in Internet Information Services. It just happens automatically for you once you give it the proper name, the authentication you want to use, the database name, all that stuff is done. But at that time, there's nothing visual that you can see or that you can have your users see. You need to make site collections within the web application before the users can interact with them. So you have two site collections that are being shown here. So one here and one over here, right? Site collections are exactly like it says, like it shows over here. It's a collection of sites. It will always have one top-level site, and then you have many, many sub-sites underneath it, as many as you want. You can have as many site collections within a web application as you want. Here's a best practice to start with. A web application usually is created to make a container for, which is per database, right? So your internet site, which can also be created using SharePoint, that obviously is not going to be the same site collection as your intranet site. That's pretty obvious. Same thing as your extranet as well. If you have an extranet that you use to collaborate with your partners, that of course is going to be a separate web application, a separate site collection altogether. So you might end up with 3 web applications in, making it very general here, one for internet, one for intranet, one for extranet. And within that you would have separate site collections. Okay, how many site collections? That is up for debate, how many site collections you need. Site collections is a boundary for SharePoint security groups. It's a boundary for also your database, meaning a site collection cannot span multiple databases. A site collection must be contained in one database. You cannot have half site collection here, half site collection, different database, so that's something you want to take into account. Okay. Also, you can put a quota of how much data can be contained in a site collection. That quota cannot be done for individual sites. So you cannot say, for example, here sub-site 2 can only have a gigabyte worth of data. That is just not possible in SharePoint. SharePoint goes as low as site collection level, being able to put quota templates at that level. All right, so keep those things in mind. Another thing that I put up here so I don't forget is how deep should you go with your site collection hierarchy? What is showing over here, for example, is, you got, let's do this with level 1, or, yeah, that's the first level here, and then you got second level here, then you got a third level here. Okay, so that's the 3. You got the top level site, you got 2 subsites underneath it, and you have 1 subsite, subsite 2, right? How deep should you go? How deep can you go? How deep will it allow you to go? Well, there is no restriction. You can go as deep as you want. Should you go as deep as you want? I would suggest not. The reason for this, first of all, is confusion by the users. You're letting them, you're telling them basically that they can go, they can navigate as deep as possible. Once they get to that deep level, it's going to be very difficult for them to understand exactly where they are. The hierarchy of things just get really confusing, first of all. And second of all, it'll be confusing for you as well, because managing those sites is just going to be a chaotic experience. So my recommendation usually to my clients, my customers, my students is about 4 to 5 levels deep, because your URL is growing as well, your site structure is growing, so it's best to keep it about 4 to 5 levels to prevent from all this chaos to happen. That's what I at least suggest. It's up to you what you want to do. All right, moving on forward here. We're going to start with this team site. That looks just like that. Actually, it's going to have a home site. Well, it's going to have it's going to be looking at the top level site, which is what it is right now, SPEL intranet. It's going to have 3 sub-sites underneath it: products, human resources, sales, and we'll go from there. Okay, so that's going to be our starting point. A plain vanilla site, we'll go from there. Creating site components, very easy. It gives you a nice Silverlight look and feel. That's what this is right now. Silverlight is just like Flash, basically. The first time you go try to create something, it's going to ask you, hey, do you want to do you want to install Silverlight? If you say yes, you get this nice environment. If you say no, no harm done. Many organizations I've seen now do not want Silverlight in their environment. That's just how it is. Some organizations just have that policy. So that's fine. Silverlight is not a requirement. You will just get a regular HTML page that you can use to create components. Silverlight, by the way, is new to 2010. In SharePoint 2007, we did not have Silverlight pages like this, which will let you create components. Okay? And that's it in terms of slides. So now I'm going to jump into demos to show you some of these things, explain some of these things here. The stuff that I want to be showing you today is going to be very much SharePoint 2010 fundamental knowledge. And the demos that I got are actually from the DVD that we have on sale. So it's the SharePoint 2010 Fundamentals DVD that you're seeing here. That is the one that I used to take some stuff out of there, and I'm going to be presenting those things to you. But there's a whole lot of stuff that I will not, of course, have time to show. This DVD has hours and hours of information, lots of good stuff. So I just wanted to mention that as we move forward. Oops. All right. Bring back my GoToMeeting stuff here. I'm going to actually just quickly look at this questions thing here. Okay, somebody commenting saying, yeah, no PowerPoint. Yes, I believe the same thing. Less PowerPoint, the better, at least in this kind of stuff. All right, here we go. I'm going to go and expand my environment here. Hang on a second. Okay. Now pretty soon you should be seeing my environment. Okay. So this is like I mentioned, this is the exact same site that I just showed you in the PowerPoint. You have the SPEL intranet, which is a top-level site, top-level homepage. Okay. Currently we have products, human resources, and sales, which are sub-sites of this site. This is where people get confused that I've seen at least before, where you have these three tabs or these three links over here on top, and people think these are peer sites. So home, which is SPL intranet, and products and home, human resources and sales, these are peer sites. That is not the case. The SPL intranet is the only top-level site. You cannot have more than one top-level site. That's just the case, period. So products, human resources, and sales are all sub-sites. The best thing to do when you're looking at a site, first of all, is to find out what your privileges are. Who are you? Well, of course, it's going to say on top right who you are signed in as right now. It says it's SPEL, that's a domain, and then / administrator, so I'm signed in as administrator right now, which means what? I mean, my name could be administrator, right? I mean, of course, in this case, you understand that I'm the administrator of this machine. Great. And this domain. Perfect. And the SharePoint server. Wonderful. But that might not necessarily be the case. So how do I find out exactly who I am? What kind of privileges do I have? Well, first thing you want to do, now of course this is hoping that you have some kind of admin privileges. You go into site actions and site settings. If you can't even get to site settings, that means, well, you have just contributor privileges probably, member privileges, or maybe even reader privileges. If you can't get to site actions, site settings, still, what do you see over here? So let me get my, hang on a second, I want to get my marker running over here. Oh, I guess I don't have that here. Do I? Okay, I guess not. I like using the Zoom It tool to draw on the screen, but I don't have that installed here, which is a bummer, unfortunate. All right, I just have to point to things. So site administration, which you're looking at right here, where my cursor is, this, of course, you'll see if you are the site administrator. So if you are the administrator for this particular site, which is a top-level site in this case, you will see this information. Great. What about this right here? Site collection administration. This you will only see if you have site collection administration privileges. Okay, so if when the site was made or site collection was made, you were given that privilege, you were assigned the primary site collection administrator or the secondary site collection administrator, then you will see this. That is the first way that you would see it. Now another way is, let's say if you have these privileges, you want to give it to somebody, you can go into the site collection administrators option right here up top, and here you can give more people privileges. Okay, so this is as many as you want. As many users you want to put in here, you can do that. When the site collection is first being made, it can only be one primary, one secondary owner, and that's it. But here you can do as many as you want. All right, not that you should. So that's another best practice you should keep in mind. Usually my recommendation is to have only a couple of people who are site collection admins. Everybody else should be site admins, site designers, members, or readers. Okay, so that's just a general rule of thumb. You don't want to just have one person because, you know, something happens to that person or gets fired, hit by the bus scenario. What happens then? So you want to have 2 people at least there. And at the most, you want to have 3 or 4, but not more than that for site collection is my recommendation. Okay. Next thing. Let's go back to my home page. Now, of course, this home page, this is exactly what it looks like when the site first gets created. What I want to do first is I want to make a new site here, so underneath my top level site, and then work in that site. We're going to assume that that is a site that's been given to you, or maybe you're the owner of a whole site collection, admin, you know, whichever you want to, whichever scenario is better for you. Use that scenario, of course. What I'm going to do here is go to Site Actions, New Site. Okay, so what I'm making right now is sometimes referred to as a new web or a new site. Okay, of course you have a bunch of different choices. Team site, this one, of course, in the top left corner here, it's right there because that is what's recommended that you start from. Now, a team site is recommended because it comes with a few with a few lists and libraries already built in that you get a jump start from. So you have some things, you just start going through that instead of making everything from scratch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and name it something. My site is going to be Inventory Management. Here's one thing to mention here. The URL that you give this site is going to matter. Of course, people will be linking to this URL and all that stuff, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is that, you know, if you make this URL really, really big, you will lose space in your URL, in your address bar. You will have a site. You will have lists and libraries within that site. You might have subsites, and you might have subsites of subsites and all. And the URL space that you have up above is actually limited in nature. So you don't want to fill that up and have it, you know, be the limiting factor when you're trying to make a subsite. It says that, hey, you have used up all of your 255 or so, whatever it is, characters. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is instead of saying inventory management, I'll say INV-MGMT. Okay, just making it abbreviation. All right. Another thing to point out over here is the More Options button. This was kind of something that I didn't even look at the first time I looked at SharePoint 2010, which is a year and a half ago or so that we first got the bits for it and stuff. But I mean, you know, this thing was something that I just kind of overlooked in the beginning. Until later I said, hey, you know what is in here? Should I be looking into this thing? Does it make sense to go in here before I make my site? I clicked on More Options, and the kind of stuff that were right there in your face before when you used to make sites in SharePoint 2007, those things appear here. So my recommendation is always go to More Options. Always go to More Options because you never know, you might have things in here that you need that you will forget. For example, the description of the site. It's always good to put a description of the site, of course. The permissions for the site, that's probably the most important thing over here, is do you want to use unique permissions or do you want to have the same permissions as the parent site here? What if you were making a site that was supposed to be only for 3 or 4 people and not for everybody? Whoever, you know, has privileges on the current site that you're starting from. So then you want to put unique permissions, right? Okay, this time I'm going to say I'll leave it as use same permissions as parent site. And then of course you have some navigation changes you can make here. I'll come back to this stuff once I make the site. But always I think you should go to More Options, look at these options, and once you're comfortable with it, then you don't have to go there anymore. But it's a good reminder to see what you can do when you're making the site. Okay? Click on Create. Takes about half a minute, usually less to make a site. There we go, much less this time. Okay, so I have my new site called Inventory Management. let's start first with this getting started options here. The getting started is there because these things are important for you to consider right when you make a new site. Once you get used to making sites, once you have a site that you've been using for a while, these things are they're very, very easy to do. But in the beginning, this is very good to have. Just to remind you what you're supposed to do. Share this site will take you to the security for this site. Now, if I clicked on the use unique permissions, then it would not be using the parent permissions, but right now it is inheriting permissions from its parent site. And the parent site says that the members have contribute permissions, owners have full control, visitors have read, system account has limited access, and viewers have view only. Okay, so this question comes up a lot. What is the difference between viewers and visitors? Visitors have read rights, viewers have view only rights. Sounds about the same, doesn't it? Well, there is a difference, and I wish it was explained properly here, but it's not. I do explain that in the video, but it's not explained here on this page. Readers, visitors can read any information, so they can be looking at a document, for example, click on a document, gives them the save as option. They can save it, or they can open it up, and it opens it up in Excel or Word or whatever the kind of document it is. That privilege does not extend to the view-only folks. So the view-only folks can, of course, go to a site and look at the page information, can look at the web part information, all that stuff that's viewable in the browser. But if they click on a document, if they click on, for example, an Excel document, and even though they have Excel on their client machine, it will not open it up in Excel. It will not open it up there. It's going to say that, hey, well, I can't open this up for you. Basically, you have, I forget the exact error, but it's just going to say access denied, something like that. Now, with the exception that if you have something called Excel services running, if it's an Excel document and if you have something called Excel services running, then it will show up the Excel document through Excel services in the browser. Okay, so the browser has a functionality to show Visio documents, Excel documents, Word documents, PowerPoint documents, all those kind of things if you have the proper licensing, the enterprise licensing for web apps. If you have that, it's going to show those apps to you directly in the browser. Otherwise, it will just give you an error that you can't open it. So that's a good privilege to have here. Okay, let me click on members over here and just quickly show you that here's where you can add members. So what I have right now is I have all domain users as members, and also I have the sales folks, the sales group as members. Sales group is an Active Directory group. That's all it is right now. In fact, I can show that to you quickly. An Active Directory, which I have open here. Here's a sales group, sales security group, and the members for that is Asif, so that's me, and also Irene. Okay. All right. Now, in this case, of course, it doesn't matter as much because I have all domain users also as members. If I took them out, if I did this, let's remove users from group, remove domain users. All right. So now only me and Irene, and of course the administrator, have the privilege, have the member privileges for this site. Okay. Let's go to visitors. Okay. All domain users are visitors. Great. Owners. Only I'm the owner, or the administrator is the owner. Viewers, currently nobody. Okay, and I'll do something later to show you how the members functionality plays out. Let me go back right now to the home page. Click on the second thing over here, which is changing the site theme. So you might want to change the branding, the look and feel of your site. The site theme can be modified directly in the browser now. Before, it used to be that, and actually I wrote a whole chapter on it in the SharePoint Designer 2007 book, that you could modify your theme using SharePoint Designer. You could do it, through Visual Studio if you wanted to actually have CSS files and things like that there, or you could do it directly from the web server. But now it becomes much, much easier. If you have the proper privileges, if you have the designer privileges or the full control privileges on your site, you can go ahead and theme your site. So you look for the one that's closest to your current, let's say, internet site or intranet site. Okay, let's say the mission one is. Okay, you realize that this color palette is very, very close to what you want it to be. But this green right here, accent 1, which is right here, this green stuff in the middle, this doesn't flow well with your other sites or your internet site. or your branding for your organization. So you click on select a color. Change the color. Let's use light blue here, okay? And then you can preview. Click on preview at the bottom. And here you go. Here's what my site is going to look if I click on apply. So that sounds good. Let me go ahead and click on apply. Here it is. Okay, so easy theming functionality. Definitely use this thing. This is per site basis, so whatever you do here is not going to apply to the sub-site or the top site. Keep that in mind. Next thing, I'm going to go to the set a site icon. Set a site icon. Here is where you can change the title of your site also if you wanted to, or add a description if you have not done already. And also, you can change the website address. So INV MGMT that I chose before, I can go ahead and change that. And this is actually stored in the database, so that's, it's going to be fine. A word of advice though, this could have some repercussions. Let's say, for example, something simple to think about here is your users could also already have links pasted on other sites or their bookmarks or whatever that are going to existing homepage or different documents within the site. All those things will of course break, because if you change the URL, all that stuff is going to break. So usually I recommend that when you're first making a site, you can go ahead and change the stuff here, but after a week, a month, a year, you don't want to touch this stuff. That's just bad news. All right, what I want to do here is change the image, the logo for my site, right? Here's my logo on top left, where my icon, where my mouse is. Okay, I want to change that. So how do I do that? Well, what I want to do is I need to, I have a file. Let me show you that thing. I know I have something in the pictures library. I'll go to images, AWPics, thumbs. I have hot rod bike underscore small.gif. Let me open it up for you. Here it is. Okay, I want to take this image and put it, as my logo. Use it as my logo because I have a bike company, let's say. All right. So the way I would do that, I first need to return to my, I need to first actually go to a place where I need to hold this image, and that location, what I recommend, and actually what SharePoint recommends also now, is under libraries, something called site assets. Site assets is a new type of library. It was not there in 2007 version of SharePoint, but now you want to put all of your system images, anything that you want to show on your pages, things like that, are over here. So I'll click on Add Document. I'm going to be lazy here and just click on the Upload Multiple Files, so I can use a drag and drop feature. Okay, I'm going to drag and drop from my Windows Explorer directly here. Click on OK. Done very quickly. I'm going to go click on this file, and it opens it up in the browser, right? I need to do that so I can grab the URL. I'm going to copy this URL, go back, go to my home page, return back to my set a site icon link, and here I'm going to go ahead and paste in my image, okay, my location to my image. So hot rod bike underscore small.gif, which is under the site assets library, which is under the inventory management site, which is under intranet.spel.com. And I'll click here to test. Here we go. Wonderful. Now here's a best practice to mention here. You want to try as much as possible to not use full absolute URLs. Absolute URL starts with HTTP something. You don't want to do that, because what if this site gets moved somewhere? If this site, the whole thing gets moved somewhere else, this URL will no longer be valid, right? So what I want to do is take out this top site's address or web application address, and now it just says slash the site name slash site assets, etc. Click here to test. Here we go. Perfect. It automatically reconfigured the URL to point to the right location. So that's what you want to do. You want to use a relative URL here. Click OK. Here it is. Okay. Here's my logo for the site. All right. The fourth thing here is customize the quick launch. Let me do that. I'll go into customize the quick launch. Here's all different links that I have for the quick launch, right? Where are these links? Well, here we go. Libraries right here is the same as libraries here. Site pages, share documents, share documents. So this is the stuff right here on my quick launch right now. Let me add a new navigation link. Currently there's no navigation link, for example, to the links list, right? There's a list in here called links. There's no navigation to that. What I'm going to do is I'll open up a new tab that shows all my site content, and I'll take the link to my links list, copy this here, copy shortcut, go to quick launch. Now I'm going to click on new navigation link. I'll put this under the lists category. Here's my address. In here I'm going to say links, and then I'll just hyphenate this with created manually. And I'll explain what this means, why I'm doing this here, okay? I made a new link called links-created manually because this is the one that I just created right now statically, right, by going to the new navigation link here. That is not how the other links are produced. Okay, so if I click on links created manually here, it does take me to the right location, which is great, but that's not the best way to link to content within your SharePoint site. Here's the best way to do that. You go to the actual list, so links list in my case returns back to where I was. You go to the list tab, you go to list settings tab, list settings button, click on title, description, and navigation. And here you say display list on the quick launch. Okay, and save. So now I have two links which are linking to the links list. Okay, well, what's the difference here? The links list points to links list, links-created manually points to the links list. Here's where the issue happens. What I'm going to do is go to the list, list setting for the list for the links list, and I'll change the permissions for this list. Okay, I'm going to change the permissions for this list. I'm going to say stop inheriting permissions from the site. All right, and I'll go ahead and remove the permissions for everybody except owners, which is myself in this case. So remove user permissions. All right, now let's see what happens. I'll browse using my nice breadcrumb trail here. I'll browse to the inventory management site, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in as somebody else. We'll sign in as a person called, well, I'll use Irene. She's a member of the site. Okay, so Irene is a member of the site. She does not see the links list link that was created dynamically, but she does see the links list link that was created manually. If she clicks on it, of course she does not have permissions to it. That's what I revoked. But still it tries to get her there, right? That is not a good user experience for anybody. So you want to, of course, try to avoid this, and because of that, you don't want to make any links to this stuff that's in the site manually. Now, if you have to link to stuff outside, if you have to link to a list or a library or a site that's outside of this site completely, then great. Go ahead, go to customize the quick launch link, and then go ahead and make your links over there. If you want to link to MSN site, Yahoo site, or your internet site, and you want to put that on the quick launch, great, you can do that. But my advice here would be to not link to stuff that's within the site, the list of libraries within the site using this method. Okay? Creating it manually, because this is what's going to happen. Your users will not be happy with you. Okay, let me go ahead and sign back in as myself. Alrighty, let's go about 7 or 10 more minutes, let's see, for some more stuff, and then I'm going to go into your questions. So now the top link bar, let's talk about the top link bar here, this thing right here, right? I'm going to go to Site Actions, Site Settings, and here's the top link bar thing. it says currently just home, right? And I can go ahead and make a new navigation link if I wanted to. Let me just go ahead and do that. I want to link, let's say, to my internet site, which is SharePoint-videos.com. SharePoint videos. Here we go. Now we have a SharePoint videos link here. Great. Now that, of course, I did manually, which is fine. Another thing that happens dynamically, and this is the same methodology that you want to think about it in the quick launch, is when you make a new subsite, that link for the subsite automatically appears there. Let's prove that out. Site actions, new site. Let's just make it a team site. We'll say sub inventory management, something like that, quickly. Okay, so here's my new sub inventory management site. I'm going to go ahead and navigate back up to my inventory management site, which was where I was before, and here it is. Here's my link to my sub-site sub inventory management. All right. Now, what if I do not want this experience? What if I don't want to control the links here, and I don't want my sub-sites to show up here? Instead, what I really do want is I want all this stuff from my top-level site to appear in my inventory management site. So my top-level site shows me all of the sub-sites that are right beneath my top-level site, right? I want that stuff to be there. So I'll go into inventory management. I'll go into site actions, site settings, top link bar, and here I'm going to say use links from parent. Sure you want to do this? The top link bar stuff is going to be deleted? Yes. All right, here we go. So now, oops, I went too far ahead. My inventory management site here, shows all the stuff. Well, it shows all the different sites which are peer to this site: products, human resources, sales, and of course the home site. This home site now is going to point to the top level site. Okay. All right. Just hang on a second here, folks. I want to make sure this connection is working fine. I just got a warning over here. Okay, I think it's fine. All right. So that's the top link bar. That's how this works. The next thing that I want to mention is something that everybody, well, not everybody, I shouldn't say that, many people do not do, and I really hope that you guys start doing this thing over here. I'm going to start with a scenario. I'm going to tell you a story here, okay? Let's say Tim Smith, a fictional character called Tim Smith, goes to the shared documents library, clicks on add document here, browses to a document, doesn't matter which document. Let's go ahead and take this image and post it up here, okay? Tim is done. He posted up an image or document or whatever on a library called shared documents, which happens to be under the inventory management site. Goes home, this is a new user for SharePoint, doesn't know much about this stuff, comes back tomorrow, you say, hey Tim, where's that InfoPack 2007 image? Where did you upload that? I can't find it anywhere. I did a search, but our search is not working properly. Where is it? And he says, well, it's in the shared documents folder. Shared documents folder or shared documents library. He's going to say either of those two things, right? What does that mean? You have a shared documents right here in inventory management, but what if you have 20 different sites that you're managing? You go to sales, you see a shared documents here. You go to retailer sales, you get a shared documents here. Okay, you go to anything else, products, you see shared documents here. Wherever you go, I think you catch my drift here, you see the shared documents. So my request is that you change the name for shared documents to something else, just so the end users don't get confused at the end. There's no miscommunication like that. You go to shared documents library, go to library tab, library settings, title, description, and navigation. And here you can go ahead and change that. So what I recommend usually, just to keep things simple, is use the name of your site, like inventory management, for example, and just say documents at the end. So inventory management documents. Simple enough, right? Okay. One more thing, something that's also very important, I don't want to miss this out here, is when you are making new libraries and lists, be very careful what you name them. Here's what I mean. let me say site actions, more options, and here I'm going to make a new, let's make a new library here. So document library, and I'll go ahead and call this document library to hold our records coming from government. Okay, it's going to let you make a name that's this long, and some people will do that. And by the way, like I said before, more options is your friend, so you want to go to more options and see what you can do here. But okay, so whatever you've done here, you went and you made the name super long. Click on create. Okay, and in the browse tab of your library is going to show that library name there, and which might be a requirement for you. You might want to name this library really, really long, which is fine. But look up above. You know, when you're looking at this library, your URL now says document and then %20, which stands for space, library, and then %20, to %20, hold %20. This is super long, and it takes up a lot of characters in your URL. So now if you create a folder in this library and make that really long name, and then put a file in there that's really long name, and maybe have another folder right by other folder, and you know, this will get longer and longer and longer. Your URL is going to be very, very much unreadable, of course, but that's okay. But you might even run out of characters in the URL, so that's not good. How do you get around the situation? I'll show you. Let me go ahead and take this just copy this text over here. Document library to hold our records coming from government. Okay, whatever. I'm going to say site actions, new document library. So this is just a shortcut to get to the document library creation screen. And here I'm going to say records gov, something like that. Okay, so I'm making it really, really small name here, records gov. And now you can see that it says records gov right here in the URL. Simple URL. But the problem here, of course, is that it still says records gov here, and I don't want that to be the case. I want this to be a nice descriptive name. Okay, I'm sure many of you have already guessed by now what you're supposed to do then. You go to library, go to library settings, go to title description and navigation, and put your name right here. Okay, so I just paste it. Click on OK. Ooh, that's not good. Oh, I'm sorry. That's because there's already one other one that has the exact same name, so that's not good. Let me go ahead and say government 2 or something at the end. Okay, here it is. So document library to hold our records coming from government. Nice short URL, nice big name descriptive that I need for the library. Everybody's happy. You cannot do this the other way around. So you cannot say that, hey, I'll just go ahead and change the URL later. That you cannot change later for a list or a library, but the name itself you can change. Okay? All right. So I covered, I think, lots of nice best features. I hope you liked it. What I want to do now is, like I mentioned before, to jump into the Q&A. So if you have any questions, I'll go ahead and answer them right now. Let me pause this for a second. Okay. All right. Once again, all the information that I've showed and a whole lot more is available in the SharePoint 2010 Fundamentals DVD. So if you want information like that, pick it up, SharePoint 2010 Fundamentals. If you have any questions about this DVD, let me know. Just a last thing over here, the call to action. You know, you are welcome, of course, to watch the free videos on SharePoint 2010 on our SharePoint-videos.com site. There's also many, many good videos on Microsoft sites now, so check those out. There's a newsletter that we print out, that we send out. It contains SharePoint tips, video, new videos announcements, so like the 5 that we gave, that we published today. That's going to be the next newsletter. Webinars announcement, all that stuff is there. Informative articles, and please fill out the survey at the end. And now I'm going to go ahead and take your questions. Okay, first of all, by the way, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it, your time, and I hope it was well worth it. All right, let's take the questions here. Is SharePoint 2010 a valid candidate as a CMS solution? Okay, Adolf, you're asking. Adolf, I remember you being here before. Welcome back. Which template should be used for the CMS stuff, so should be utilized for CMDBs. And there's CIs. I'm not sure what CIs stand for at all. But to answer your question, yes, it is a good content management server solution. Absolutely. SharePoint is the de facto product that Microsoft is pushing for many, many things right now. The content management server, commerce server, project server, all those things now have been either rolled into SharePoint or have their front end served by SharePoint. So if you ask Microsoft, if you ask me, definitely I think those things are, SharePoint is the way to go for all those things. Question from Pia. Will this webinar be free for a period of time on the site? Yes, I am recording this webinar, so we will make this available in the next few days. It's going to be on the site. By the way, let me show you something really quickly over here, something that might be helpful to you guys. If you go to the site, which I'm showing right now, you go to the video categories tab, and once it comes up, I'll show you quickly here. There's a new option here now called the Watch Webinar Recordings. Okay, so if you go into Watch Webinar Recordings, all the webinars that we have conducted since 2007 days actually, so SharePoint 2007 stuff, SharePoint 2010 stuff, and this one that we're doing right now, this is going to end up here as well. All that stuff is here. Now all these webinars are for subscribers only right now. This webinar that I'm doing right now, this definitely I'll put in, I'll make it available to you guys for about a week. Okay. Okay, let me see this question again. Okay, Naveed, your question also about the recording. Yes, it will be available. Are the DVDs and the monthly subscription online modules the same? Okay, so this is a little bit more of the question about SharePoint. For my sites, I'll go ahead and briefly answer this right now. You're welcome to go ahead and send me an email about this as well. The DVD is very focused on stuff that the DVD is supposed to cover. The site has everything. So if you subscribe to the site, you have access to everything. Of course, you only have access to the stuff until your subscription is done, and you only have access online. With a DVD, you own it forever, whatever the stuff is on there, and it could be streamed out. It could be watched offline. Okay. Michael, your question: what is the cost of the DVD? The cost of the DVD that I just showed right now, SharePoint 2010 Fundamentals, is $195. And if you go onto the site, by the way, and go to the DVDs tab, you see all the different DVDs which are available there. We have lots of them right now and some bundles as well. So check it out if you like. Okay. Scott, your question, tasks, is there any integration automation between % completion and status? It seems like a waste of time to update both. That's a very good question, Scott. It is true that when you go to a task list and you want to update a task, you have to put in % complete, let's say 70% or something, and then your status is going to be in progress, right? What I recommend for this thing is you make a workflow. If you really want to automate this thing, you make a workflow. And in the workflow, and this can be done using SharePoint Designer or done Visual Studio way, I recommend SharePoint Designer for this stuff, is it looks at the changes that happen to the % complete and it automatically adjusts the status for the field, which I think works great. Okay. What is the best way to set up navigation if you have 4 to 5 levels deep? That's the question by Fiona. That's a very good question, Fiona. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, by the way. Sorry if I'm not. So if you have lots of different levels that you want to show in your navigation bar, SharePoint team sites do not support like a flyout hierarchy, a flyout navigation, unfortunately. You do get that privilege if you have publishing features turned on. Publishing features, if you have SharePoint 2007, SharePoint Server Enterprise, you get publishing features. Actually, you get them with SharePoint Server Standard as well. You go into Site Collection Features. In Site Collection Features, you'll see Publishing option. You turn that on, and you'll be able to set up flyout menus, which help quite a bit. If you want to really make robust flyout menus, I would recommend going to a vendor and getting one of those plugins that they have or a web part that was going to let you replace the current navigation. Unfortunately, there's no great built-in way to do that, so you have to purchase something or build something and make that happen. Okay. Question from Annie: will the Enterprise Wiki be considered as a site component or a sub-site? Very good question, Annie. Enterprise Wiki site is always a site collection. Enterprise Wiki cannot be a site or a subsite. In fact, we don't even have wiki sites at all, the wiki site templates. The wiki functionality has been embedded, has been baked into the team site, and the wiki site template, which used to be there, is no longer there. So you can only make enterprise wiki sites or any kind of really enterprise level sites at the site collection level. Okay, Ashfaq, your question, how to get trial version and test it out on an XP machine. You can get the trial version of SharePoint from, well, I can't remember exactly where it is, but I blogged about it. If you go to my SharePoint-videos.com site, click on the blog and search for SharePoint download, you'll find exactly where you can download it from. You cannot test it on the XP machine though. You will need a Windows 7 machine if you want to install it natively, or you can get VMware, or you can get Hyper-V and virtualize your environment as long as you have 64-bit, and you can run it there like that. Okay, but not an XP machine. Sorry. All right. Now, actually, having said that, if you can have an XP machine, but you still need a VMware or something like that to run it over there. Okay. Question from Dennis: best way to change the look of a site using either a prepackaged theme or a custom theme? Well, a prepackaged theme is going to be the quickest way of doing it, Dennis. Of course, you can make a custom theme as well. A custom theme, if you want to make it from scratch, you can do it from the web server level. You go into the web server for SharePoint, you go ahead and start hacking that out. Basically, one of the levels themes are already there. And like I said, I have this whole chapter that I wrote about that in the SharePoint Designer 2007 book. And there's some really good information on the web too about that stuff. And actually, I believe we have a video on that as well of how you can do that. I'm pretty sure we do. But a pre-packaged theme is what you want to start from, and then go ahead and make your new theme, your new custom theme. And then you have to register that theme with SharePoint. Registration of a theme is in a file called spthemes.xml. You can look for that file in your SharePoint server, and in there it will show you different designation for the themes that are there. So you can just follow the same examples that are there. Okay. Nick, your question, are the intermediate advanced demos available on videos only? That is true. The intermediate and advanced demos are available on the videos only. It's not available in a webinar perspective. And the reason usually for that is because we don't get a big audience in a webinar if we do a really deep dive. So that's why all the stuff is there on the site, but it's not in the webinar form. Okay? Okay. Joan, your question, in 2007, if you signed in as someone else, then decided to edit a document in Word, Excel, the document showed it was last modified the person logged into the PC. Is this still the case? That is still the case, Joan. Because, when a Word or Excel or some kind of client application opens up your document, still is looking at, unless you provide it, unless you give it that, that link from your web browser, and there's a way to do that, it's still looking at who is signed in into the PC, because the PC is where the client application is installed. And then when you save the document on a document library, it uses that name as the last modified by. Okay, so that functionality has not changed. It is by design. All right. Joe, your question, can you show us step-by-step to enable email via an Exchange server? That cannot be covered here, of course, in the time we have. So I'm sorry, but I know I cannot do that here. Step-by-step enablement of using Exchange server with your SharePoint is through central administration. So in central administration, you would have to go into, I believe, into operations, and then from there, you have to set up your Exchange outbound server. Okay. All right. Let's see, Joseph. When you read on SharePoint, everyone is saying that SharePoint is a tool to create apps. Can I have an example of an app that was created in SharePoint? Because all that I see in SharePoint, you have list and static data. Okay, yeah. Joseph, the reason that people are saying that it's great to create apps is because you can make any type of logic, any kind of application logic appear in your SharePoint site. I'll give an example. So there's one really good example that Microsoft puts out. It's under what's called the Fabulous 40 templates. It's a site for help desk. If you want to have a help desk where you can track the tasks, track the different tickets coming in for help, all that stuff, that's an application, right? And that application you can just go ahead and download, and you can go ahead and install it or put it on SharePoint, and you get a site template. It's already built in site template, which gives you lists and libraries to do that. So look for Fabulous 40, for example. There's 40 different templates that you can get for, like, I don't know, vacation scheduling or help desk support or executive team management, stuff like that. There's many like that, and you can use those right away in SharePoint. That's how the apps scenario comes into play. Can SharePoint 2010 Foundation be installed on a Windows 7 desktop for learning purposes? Hermine, yes, you can. You can install SharePoint 2010 Foundation on Windows 7. I personally have not done that, and as you can see probably from my screen over here, that I am running Windows 7. The reason I've not done that is because I've heard from many people that it slows down your machine quite a bit. So unless you're a hardcore developer, you're in SharePoint all the time, and you need your primary machine to be doing SharePoint stuff all the time and not other stuff, which I need to do a lot of business stuff as well, so I don't want my machine to slow down, I would not recommend going to that option unless you want a dedicated machine to it. Otherwise, yes, definitely you can. Are there any SharePoint 2010 virtual labs? That I am not 100% sure if there are any good virtual labs out there for SharePoint 2010. I've just not looked into that as much. I know there's lots of good videos out there that I've created and other people have created, but not sure about the virtual labs. You want to go to sharepoint.microsoft.com, and if there are SharePoint 2010 virtual labs, you'll find them there for sure. Is there a way to programmatically do this? So a new site collection, a new site creation, what is this thing over here? Is there a way to programmatically do this so on new site creation it can inherit the title of the site and append docs? I am not sure, Michael. My guess is going to be 99% yes, because programmatically you can almost do anything, and what you're asking for sounds pretty simple, but I don't do programming anymore, so I cannot really comment on that, of how it can be done. I am very much of a no-code guy. I used to do programming quite a bit on SharePoint. I even wrote a course on the SharePoint 2007 programming, and this was about 4 years ago. So, but I've learned there's so much you can do without programming right now in SharePoint that I've completely given that up, but I'm pretty sure you can do it. All right, let's see here. And your question is there a site web part template for context for use with SharePoint Foundation? Yeah, there's actually a list. It's called context list. You can use that for in SharePoint Foundation right away. Will it allow for syncing between Outlook 2007 and the SharePoint context web part? Okay, so the SharePoint context list, it will allow syncing to Outlook 2007 and Outlook 2010, whichever you want. Absolutely, it will do that. What you want to do is you want to go to just the actions menu in the list and say connect to Outlook, and it's going to connect to your Outlook instance. Swati, your question, the SharePoint 2010 gets installed on a 34-bit Windows Server 2008. I think you mean 32. Oh yeah, you said, sorry, 32-bit. So no, unfortunately no, you have to have 64-bit to install SharePoint 2010. SharePoint 2007 and earlier products did support 32-bit, but now everything is 64-bit. Exchange is 64-bit. Commerce Server, I'm pretty sure, is 64-bit. Project Server, 64-bit. Everything is going to a 64-bit model, so you might as well get 64-bit for everything. Hugh, welcome, Hugh. Will you make DVDs for SharePoint Administration 2010 and migrating to SharePoint 2010? Migration to SharePoint 2010 is going to be a video. It won't be a DVD. The SharePoint Administration 2010, absolutely. There will be a DVD in the future for more advanced SharePoint administration options, so that's definitely in the works, but it's going to be a while before it comes out. Todd, your question on your site, all the DVD videos are for the site for a monthly fee. Okay, so you're asking this as a question. Yes, that is true. All the stuff that's on the DVD is on the site as well. So if you don't want to watch it offline, and if you want to only, if you want to have a subscription, then absolutely you can get a subscription on the site, and you can watch all the DVDs on the site. Oh, I'm sorry, all the videos on the site. Of course, if your subscription, when your subscription expires, I can't talk today, then of course you won't have access to those videos anymore. Okay. Gerald, is the inheritable global navigation available for site collection? Inheritable global navigation available for site collection. If I understand this correctly, you're saying that can you do this at the site collection level? Yes, you can do that within any site of the site collection. You cannot do it above the site collection. You cannot say that, hey, this site collection should see or should get inherited navigation from this other site collection. You can't do that. You cannot go cross site collection for this stuff. But yeah, within the site collection, you can go to any site and say, go ahead and inherit from the my parent site. All right, Darren, your question here: does SharePoint 2010 integrate smoothly with Microsoft Office 2007? Absolutely. SharePoint 2010 does integrate smoothly with Microsoft Office 2007. And if you look at it, 2007 was, of course, a big change for Office, but 2010 is just builds on 2007 stuff. So, you know, all the underlying functionality in 2007 still remains. It just gotten improved, gotten enhanced, gotten better. So all that stuff is still going to work. You'll be fine. I've not heard any issues, at least so far myself. Michael, do you have a video document or a document that outlines the install process and the best practices of service accounts to use during the install? I don't have a video or a document that outlines the install process. Well, I actually do have I shouldn't say that. I do have a video that outlines the install process. Let me actually quickly navigate to that as I talk about this. Video categories, SharePoint 2010 videos. Here we go, installing SharePoint Server 2010. But you know what, if you want to just see this video, you don't even have to pay anything for that. You can just go to the TechNet site, technet.microsoft.com, and on TechNet, let's see. Okay, so on TechNet, they've changed it around a little bit here. It used to be right on the home page, but now, okay, that's because they've changed the TechNet on. You can go to library. You can go in TechNet, you can go to library and go to SharePoint products, SharePoint server, and you can go to deployment, and here we go, demo, installing SharePoint, and this is my demo right here, installing SharePoint Server 2010. You can find that on TechNet for free. You can also see the video demos and training link over here, and this has I think 4 or 5 videos that I produced right here, all for free. So you can check it out if you like. You can download these as well. All right. Now, your second question was the service accounts. My peer and a good friend of mine named Shane Young, S-H-A-N-E, Shane, Y-O-U-N-G, Young, just made a blog entry about service accounts, which service accounts to use. He just made that yesterday, I believe. So that's a cool entry. Go check that out. Look for Shane Young SharePoint. You can find that on his blog, of which service accounts to use. Okay, I haven't seen much about surveys in 2010 that has changed. Like you can easily add polls now or anything in standard that is standard around the web. Okay, so that question, Matt, I'm assuming what you really mean is that are there any changes to the survey functionality, basically? Unfortunately, no. The survey functionality is still kind of light in SharePoint, so it's not improved much. I would still suggest to use outside vendors for survey functionality. Sorry, just to be honest here. Surveys are good, but they're not great in SharePoint, okay? There are definitely some issues with that too. Nick, you're pointing out, check out recovery.gov. That is true. Recovery.gov, the government website, has been completely made in SharePoint. It's pretty awesome. There's many sites out there like that which are made in SharePoint. Margaret, your question: is it possible to make a site or to make a site into a subsite? So, for example, an independent site is created and then needs to be made a subsite of another site. Okay, so if you have a subsite, you can change the location of a subsite to another location within the site collection. That is very true. To do that, there are a couple different ways to change the location of a site. Let's say if you have it, like I had it before, what did I have? I had inventory management, right? If I want to put inventory management under the sales site, for example, you can do that using STS ADM utility. STS ADM.exe is a utility that comes with SharePoint. It's a command line utility that you can use to make that happen. Also, you have PowerShell that comes with SharePoint 2010 as well. You can use that to make that happen. If you want to do it graphically, there is a way to do it graphically as well. But that is part of a publishing site feature. You need to go to Site Collection Administration, go to Site Collection Features, turn on the publishing features. After that, go to the Site Settings page, look for something called Content and Structure. Content and Structure. If you go to Content and Structure link, it's going to show you the whole structure of your site collection. Using that functionality, you can move things around from one site to another site. Okay, and I know I have a video for that. You can look for Site Content and Structure on the SharePointVideos.com site and you'll find it. All right. One last question I'll take here. I think I got to most of the questions. I think I still had, unfortunately, about 6 or 7 questions that I could not get to. Sorry, folks, but let me get to this last question here. When you connect a site collection to a portal site, can it inherit the top-level global nav? That's a pretty good question, Gerald. You know, to my knowledge, it cannot. When you connect a site collection to a portal site, it cannot inherit the top-level global nav from the portal site. In fact, the portal site really is, it could just be another site collection, basically, right? So no, that doesn't work that way, unfortunately. There are plugins out there, I believe, that will let you do that, but not through the inherent functionality of SharePoint. All right. Thank you very much, folks, for joining me. I hope you get to see this stuff also online later when I publish this webinar recording. So look out for that in the next newsletter that I'll publish, and hopefully we'll have other webinars. If you have some suggestions for the webinars, you can send that my way as well. I'll entertain those things. Hope to see you next time. Take care and goodbye.